My name is Jessica Yu, and I'm at TIFF as the director of the comedy Quiz Lady. Quiz Lady is about two estranged sisters who have to go on an odyssey together to satisfy their mother's gambling debts. Which it's so weird to just say it in a sentence like that because there's so much more that happens, but that's kind of what sets things off. The element that really attracted me was the sister dynamic. For one thing, I just haven't seen a lot of comedies about sisters, and the fact that at the center of this was two Asian American sisters, I thought, oh, this will be really fun to explore, and I felt like I had something I could really bring to it. The film was written by Jen D'Angelo, who's a very funny writer, and I really loved the script. But then when I heard that it was Awkwafina and Sandra Oh, it was just like, say no more, right? Just let me do this, please. They were attached when I got the script, and the great thing, though, was that we had an opportunity to collaborate together for a year before we started shooting. So there was time to sort of flesh out the layers of the sisters, particularly in terms of their Asian American background, and not in a way that was going to become the sum of their identities, but to make their experience as specific as possible and to see what humor could be mined from that. A lot of it was trying to figure out what was the specific trauma that they survived together and how did they manage that. There are some specific jokes and things that came out of our discussions, but some of it was personal, some of it was having to do with the Asian American experience. There's tiny details, right? There's like, what kind of food are they eating? What kind of jokes? But certainly for Sandra Oh's character, she's the older sister, there's a way that she uses her identity when it suits her. And sometimes it's maybe not appropriately employed, and then other times it works for her. Awkwafina, I think, is an actor who, in a lot of her films, she is actually like the emotional pivot. I don't think she gets as much credit for her dramatic ability as she does for her comedic, and she's equally strong in both. She's someone, I think, who really acts what she feels in the moment. Doesn't mean she doesn't come in prepared, but she really listens to that and lets loose with the impulse. So there's something very immediate about her, which is not to say that Sandra Oh is not spontaneous, but she does a ton of groundwork. She's very big on rehearsal. So there's a preparation there that she has that enables her just to go into that character and be ready on the day. So they do have very different working styles, but they just respect each other a lot. And it's that difference in dynamic, I think, bleeds through in terms of their chemistry on screen as sisters. God, I don't know if I have a secret to directing comedy, but one thing I do is to keep a bit of a light hand and always shoot the rehearsal, because there's something that has to be a little bit buoyant about comedy. And sometimes the natural timing is something that you just have to leave the space for. So sometimes I think getting in and I'm not much of a flogger anyway, but micromanaging comedy I think can be a little bit tricky. So, and generally on this, we would first start shooting words on the page and then always leave room to play a little bit at the end. I think we shot, I want to say, 35 days. And the interesting thing was we had to shoot a portion in LA first, which is the end of the film. So we shot the very last scene of the film on the very first day. Not ideal. And I was trying not to have that happen, but just because of production needs, it had to happen. But our actors are so strong, they just took that in. They're like, okay, well, if that's what we have to do. The great thing was knowing that that's where we wanted to end up. So it gave us kind of A to Z of the emotional through line. And so maybe I'm just rationalizing, but looking back, I was thinking, oh, that was actually really helpful. We know we're shooting a comedy, but knowing that there was this sort of emotional journey that had to reach this end was just, I think, let everyone know what we were doing. So I can't remember the exact time, but I want to say I was, I think it was the May of 20, Sorry. I first became attached, I think it was around May of 2021, something like that. Yeah. I think if you're an Asian American filmmaker, you're aware of any time someone like pokes through and like makes something that has content that's specific to our community's experience. But I think what's great about seeing films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, about, you know, The Farewell, these are films that the more specific the stories that are out there, the more it just kind of leaves room to tell whatever stories we want. So with this comedy, we could put in as much or as little of the sister's identity, you know, that important textual character. We could put that in as needed. It didn't have to become the reason for telling the story or something to avoid. We could just do what we wanted. I mean, of course, you know, I'm maybe a little bit biased, but it was such a fantastic screening. Part of it, I know, is these audiences at TIFF. It's an audience that appreciates the experience of cinema. Like, everyone is happy to be there. They're grateful for the films being there, so it's great energy. But it was just to hear people laughing around us. It was just like this, you know, sea of goodness. Afterwards, I was like, I could live on this for a long time. So it was really the most ideal screening in every way, except for the fact that we don't have our actors and our writer with us. So afterwards, I tried to, you know, film a little bit of the reaction for them so they could feel that. But I think I was most pleased that people responded to the emotion at the end. And I love it when you go see a comedy and you get a little bit more than just laughs. So for me, I was drawn to the sibling dynamic, and I think that that's something that I hope everyone finds that they can relate to, even through the absurdity of some things of the story or the specificity of what the sisters have been through, that there's something in there you go, oh yeah, that's the way it is with my sibling. And so if that works for you, then I think we've done our job. So.